Welcome to part 1 of The Pure Existent, selections from The Life Divine by Sri Aurobindo, Vegetarian, on Words of Wisdom. India is the home of many great spiritual masters who have brought wisdom and truth to earth. Their lives and compassionate teachings inspire us to seek a higher purpose in life, thus uplifting humanity to a more divine state of being. One such great figure is the spiritual master, yogi, philosopher, poet, and politician Sri Aurobindo, who graced our planet from 1872 to 1950. Sri Aurobindo's time as a politician was dedicated to achieving India's independence. However, after inner reflection, Sri Aurobindo retired from politics and service to his country. His aspirations turned instead toward the liberation of all humanity. Sri Aurobindo traveled to Pondicherry on the southeastern coast of India, where he retreated into the practice of silent yoga. Based on the inner knowledge revealed to him during his spiritual practice, Sri Aurobindo began publishing writings full of wisdom. Originally written by Sri Aurobindo between 1914 and 1919, The Life Divine describes the spiritual journey that unfolds as a person sincerely seeks the highest truth. Such a journey leads to the soul's awakening and the direct experience of divinity. Today we present excerpts from Chapter 10, The Pure Existent, from the book The Life Divine. Chapter 10, The Pure Existent. One indivisible that is pure existence. Chandogya Upanishad. When we withdraw our gaze from its egotistic preoccupation with limited and fleeting interests and look upon the world with dispassionate and curious eyes that search only for the truth, our first result is the perception of boundless energy, infinite existence, infinite movement, infinite activity, pouring itself out in limitless space, in eternal time, and existence that surpasses infinitely our ego or any collectivity of egos, in whose balance the grandiose products of eons are but the dust of a moment, and in whose incalculable sum numberless myriads count only as a petty swarm. We instinctively act and feel and weave our life thoughts as if this stupendous world movement were at work around us as the center, and for our benefit, for our help or harm, or as if the justification of our egotistic cravings, emotions, ideas, standards were its proper business, even as they are our chief concern. When we begin to see, we perceive that it exists for itself, not for us, has its own gigantic aims, its own complex and boundless idea, its own vast desire or delight that it seeks to fulfill, its own immense and formidable standards which look down as if with an indulgent and ironic smile at the pettiness of ours. And yet, let us not swing over to the other extreme and form too positive an idea of our own insignificance. That too would be an act of ignorance and shutting our eyes to the great facts of the universe. For this boundless movement does not regard us as unimportant to it. Science reveals to us how minute is the care, how cunning the device, and how intense the absorption it bestows upon the smallest of its works, even as on the largest. This mighty energy is an equal and impartial mother, Saman Brahma, or the universal ultimate unchanging reality in the great term of the Gita, and its intensity and force of movement is the same in the formation and upholding of a system of suns and the organization of the life of an ant hill. It is the illusion of size, of quantity, that induces us to look on the one as great, the other as petty. If we look, on the contrary, not at the mass of quantity but the force of quality, we shall say that the ant is greater than the solar system it inhabits, and man greater than all inanimate nature put together. But this, again, is the illusion of quality. When we go behind and examine only the intensity of the movement, of which quality and quantity are aspects, we realize that this Brahman dwells equally in all existences. Equally partaken of by all in its being, we are tempted to say equally distributed to all in its energy. But this, too, is an illusion of quantity. Brahman dwells in all, indivisible, yet as if divided and distributed. If we look again with an observing perception, not dominated by intellectual concepts, but informed by intuition and culminating in knowledge by identity, we shall see that the consciousness of this infinite energy is other than our mental consciousness, that it is indivisible and gives not an equal part of itself, but its whole self at one and the same time to the solar system and to the ant hill. To Brahman, there are no whole and parts, but each thing is all of itself and benefits by the whole of Brahman. Quality and quantity differ. The self is equal. The form and manner and result of the force of action vary infinitely, but the eternal, primal, infinite energy is the same in all. The force of strength that goes to make the strong man is no whit greater than the force of weakness that goes to make the weak. The energy spent is as great in repression as in expression, in negation as in affirmation, in silence as in sound. Therefore, the first reckoning we have to mend is that between this infinite movement, this energy of existence which is the world and ourselves. At present, we keep a false account. We are infinitely important to the all, but to us, the all is negligible. We alone are important to ourselves. This is the sign of the original ignorance, which is the root of the ego, that it can only think with itself as center, as if it were the all, and of that which is not itself accepts only so much as it is mentally disposed to acknowledge, or as it is forced to recognize by the shocks of its environment. Even when it begins to philosophize, does it not assert that the world only exists in and by its consciousness? Its own state of consciousness or mental standards are to it the test of reality. All outside its orbit or view tends to become false or non-existent. This mental self-sufficiency of man creates a system of false accountantship that prevents us from drawing the right and full value from life. There is a sense in which these pretensions of the human mind and ego repose on a truth, but this truth only emerges when the mind has learned its ignorance and the ego has submitted to the all and lost in it its separate self-assertion. To recognize that we, or rather the results and appearances we call ourselves, are only a partial movement of this infinite movement, and that it is that infinite which we have to know, to be consciously and to fulfill faithfully, is the commencement of true living. To recognize that in our true selves we are one with the total movement and not minor or subordinate is the other side of the account, and its expression in the manner of our being, thought, emotion, and action is necessary to the culmination of a true or divine living. For more information, please visit SriAurobindoAshram.org.
I also believe that my moving toward a more plant-based diet was a major reason that I was able to continue playing professional tennis through my 40s. It made me mentally sharper and made it possible for me to endure the physical conditioning that is required to compete at that level. Martina Navratilova, vegan.
Amazing viewers, we appreciate your company today for The Pure Existence. Selections from The Life Divine by Sri Aurobindo, Vegetarian, Part 1 of 2 on Words of Wisdom.